Welcome to our class on learning to prioritize. We're going to be talking today about why you need a budget and how prioritizing your dollars is at the very heart of budgeting. I'm going to show you how this works in YNAB. But before I get started today, I do want to start by telling you about the moment when I realized I needed a budget. I bought this 200-year-old farmhouse that I'm living in about 10 years ago, and it needed a ton of work, which was okay. I knew that going in. I knew that it would be costly, and I was somewhat prepared for that. But as the renovation unfolded, more problems were discovered. And if you've ever owned a house, you know exactly how that goes. And I started spending more than I was bringing in. I racked up a bunch of credit card debt just to cover the costs. And I can remember sitting on my couch. I specifically remember it was August of 2006. I added up all the debt, and I was planning to pay it off in a month or two, but that's when I realized this isn't going to go away as fast as I thought it was. And I thought to myself, I'm going to have to put myself on a budget. And that was a very defeating moment. I was imagining a lot of deprivation, a lot of pasta meals, and I thought, I'm not going to be able to spend, I'm going to have to put off a lot of things. But I thought that because I thought that's what it meant if you needed a budget. I thought that because budgeting gets a bad rap. I'm not the only one who looks at it that way, and I know that even more now because people tell me that they think a budget is going to be restrictive and controlling. But luckily, none of that is true. I mean, it was true I needed a budget, but it wasn't the bad thing that I imagined it would be. So if you're imagining a budget as a bad thing, just forget everything you know about budgeting because you've never budgeted like this. You do need a budget. It will do wonders for you. A good budget should align your money with your priorities. That's what was missing for me. My money wasn't aligned with what mattered. And far from being controlling, a good budget is a liberating and empowering financial tool. We're going to help you set money aside, not just for needs, but for the things that you want in life as well. Other approaches to budgeting don't really even worry about what's important to you. They're just boring or restrictive formulas. And this is one of the biggest reasons people struggle to budget and why budgeting has such a bad reputation. Now, everyone's financial situation is unique. No two budgets are the same for sure. But we've developed a common way to approach budgeting that works for everyone, and that's what I'm going to be showing you today. But first, I do want to talk about you. You're here today because you think something in your financial life needs to change. Perhaps your money isn't aligned with your priorities. Well, making a plan for your money based on what's important to you requires that you've taken some time to think and talk about what matters to you. So what's important to you? I would love to hear it. So let me know right now. Just type your thoughts right on over. It might be something simple like less financial stress or saving for a down payment on a new home. Yeah, so Joe's telling me he wants to sleep a little better at night. We've got a couple of people saying they want to pay down their credit card debt. One person's dealing with student loans. Someone's saving for a new house. Yeah, so all these things are really important priorities. And these are things that we worry about if we don't have a plan in place. Well, imagine instead of worrying about money that you already have money set aside for the things that are important to you. You've got money set aside to pay down those credit cards or that student loan and save for that down payment. Your money's doing what you want it to do, and you just adapt and adjust as life throws financial curveballs at you. You feel secure and you're sleeping well at night. Well, to do this, you need to learn to prioritize. So let's dig in here, and we're going to jump over to YNAB and see how we can get there. Now, before we can prioritize, we do need to get organized. And this is made much easier with category groups. You can see here, there's a group for immediate obligations. These are the things that I pay each month, right? Then there's a group here for true expenses. We're going to be talking more about those in a bit. We also have a category group for debt payments. And we even have some for quality of life goals and some things that are just for fun, right? Those are priorities too. Now, even though there's a nice framework here, it's important to personalize the budget to make sure it reflects my life. Now, I really enjoy Netflix. That's something that I pay for every single month, and it's really important to me to keep that service. It's a priority for me, so I'm going to go ahead and add that. And we're going to drag that down here under the electric bill. And I also need to be saving for the car insurance. Now, even though I don't pay it every month, it's still a priority for me. I want to be ready for it, so I'm going to go ahead and add that to my true expenses. I don't pay the water bill, so we can go ahead and delete that. And let's see. Oh, I also don't pay rent. That really is mortgage for me, so we're just going to go ahead and change that to mortgage. Perfect. Now, notice if we look down here that my student loan and auto loan are listed under debt payments. Now, making the minimum payment on those loans, absolutely an immediate obligation, but we've just found debts are a little easier to focus on if they're all together. You want to be sure that your categories are specific enough to represent your priorities and guide your spending, but not so specific that your budget becomes complicated. Maybe you don't need separate categories for food and cleaning supplies and pet food. Just let groceries cover all the things you get at the grocery store. So now that we've thought about our priorities, we can talk about how to budget for them. And to help us think through how we might budget our money, I want to talk about another thing that we budget for, and that's time. You have a finite amount of time, and you budget your time so important things get done. I'll go shopping this morning, and then I'll run to the bank after work. I'm sure you can all think of a day that you didn't plan, and at the end you asked yourself, oh my gosh, where has this day gone? I didn't accomplish a thing. Time is finite, so it helps to plan things out. Well, if you don't plan how you're going to use your money, you may end up with a similar thought. Oh my gosh, we were just paid 2 days ago. Where did the money go? Since money is finite, it's best if we plan ahead what we're going to do with it. This way you can make sure it's aligning with what's important to us, right? We have 4 rules that are going to help you do this. Rule 1 is to give every dollar a job. We want you to prioritize the dollars you have and decide what to do with them before you spend. Now, an important point I want to make here is I'm going to be making a plan or a budget just for the dollars I have. It's important to work with what you've got, both with money and time. If I have 4 things to do that will each take me an hour, I need to make sure I've got 4 hours to get them done. If I only have 3 hours, then I have some decisions to make, right? The same thing is true with our money. We have to decide the most important things to do with the dollars that we have. Now, sometimes I have things to do that take a really long time or that I didn't expect I'd need to do, and then I find myself crunched for time. Think about a task or a project that only happens once in a while and takes a long time to finish. I'll give you a personal example. I have a big vegetable garden, and I can't get that all planted in one day. So I break it down into smaller tasks over several days. The first day, I'll till the soil. The next day, I'll put in the tomato plants. And when I've got more time, I put in the cucumbers, the beans, and the rest of the vegetables. Now, some expenses are like that too. They don't happen often, or maybe they're big ticket expenses. But the problem is we don't have an effective way to break all that spending down, right? All of a sudden, we have to come up with the money, and we're crunched for cash. Well, there is a better way. We want you to treat every expense like it's a monthly expense. The way people prepare for holidays is a really good example of this problem. In December, all that shopping and spending is happening all at once. So people end up breaking the bank or reaching for the credit card. Maybe other bills get put off and are late just so you can have money for the holiday. To solve this problem, we use Rule 2. Embrace your true expenses. We want you to break large, less frequent expenses down into monthly amounts that you can manage. You're prioritizing for later with money that you have right now. If you know you need $600 for the holidays, divide by the number of months left until you start shopping. And that's how much you need to budget each month to your holiday category. Now, granted, when you first get started, you may only have a month till the holidays, and you may be scrambling a little bit, but that will be the last time you scramble because it will only get better as you have more time to prepare. This is actually how I handled the second major renovation on this house. I saved for it very specifically. I had a category called renovation, and I budgeted something every month until I had enough to do it. So really, a lot of your true expenses are essentially a goal. I want to have this much money by this date. I'm going to show you a little bit later how to set and track a goal in YNAB. Now this works really well, right, until something throws you off course. Let's go back to our time analogy. What happens when we run out of time? I plan to work in the garden and then I'm going to run to the grocery store. And I'm thinking, okay, each of these things is going to take me an hour. But I get out in the garden and I find more weeds than I thought. So it takes me 2 hours. So I can't run to the grocery store now. I'll run to the grocery store tomorrow. I take the time that I'd planned for the grocery shopping and I reassign it to weeding the garden. This happens with money too, right? We thought the car repair was going to be $250, but it's $300. So now we need to find another $50. And at this point, you may ask yourself, where's the money going to come from? And at this point, you feel bad and you feel like a budgeting failure because you overspent. You might even feel guilty because you didn't stick to the budget. But the truth is, that's the right question. Of course, you need to know where the money's going to come from, right? But in order to figure out the answer, you need to look at your plan and then make some changes. And that's what Rule 3 is for. Roll with the punches. It's okay to change your budget. We want you to adjust and adapt because we want the budget to stick with your priorities instead of you sticking with something that made sense a week ago, but maybe doesn't make sense today. I used Rule 3 a lot during the second renovation. That's what stopped me from reaching for the credit card. When the sheetrock estimate came in higher than I thought it was going to be, I simply shifted some money around to cover it. So much better. So what I want to do now is I want to take a look at how these rules work in YNAB. So let's go back over to the budget. Our priorities are set, and it's now time to give every dollar a job. So first we need to know how many dollars we have. Well, you can see in this budget that we have a checking account with a balance of $1,230. And if we look in the checking register, we can see this money is categorized as to be budgeted. That sends the money over to the budget so we can decide what to do with it. So now on the budget, I just need to answer one question. What does this money need to do before I'm paid again? Now I'm going to work through this in just a few minutes, but it's totally okay to take your time and be thoughtful about this. You may want to discuss this with your budgeting partner. Now I've already paid the mortgage this month, so that is all set. I don't need to budget for that since we aren't looking backwards. So let's budget for what's coming next. I know that we have to pay the electric bill, and that's going to be $65. Now notice as I add dollars to categories, the amount to be budgeted goes down. My job is to get that number to zero. When it's at zero, I know every single dollar has a job. All right, I also need to budget for Netflix. And the groceries are going to be maybe $200 right now. Transportation is going to be $100. And let's see. Oh, I do have the internet bill. That's going to be about $90. All right. All right, great. So that takes care of immediate obligations. Now I also want to build up some money in my car insurance category. I want to plan ahead for that bill. It's due in 6 months and it's going to be $545. I mentioned goals earlier. So let's create a car insurance goal. You'll notice there are 3 types of goals. There's target category balance. That's for when I just want to build up a certain amount, but I don't really have a timeline for it. Target category balance by date, that's for when I need to have a certain amount in a category by a certain date. And then a monthly funding goal, that's when I want to make sure I budget a certain amount to the same category every single month. So when we think about the car insurance, we need target category balance by date, because I need to make sure that there's $545 in there by April of 2016. Okay, so now I can see that I need to budget $90.84 each month in order to reach my goal. There's an alert in the category to remind me that I need to budget to meet my goal. And let's see what happens when I do that. I'm just going to go up here and budget the goal target. And right away, I am 16% of the way there. And next month, when I budget $90.84, I'll be even further along. And you'll notice if we peak at next month now, there's that alert again reminding me to budget for it next month. This is how I'm going to stay on track with my goals and priorities. So now let's take a look at the auto maintenance category. I want to have a balance in there of about $500. That's roughly how much I'd like to have for when the car needs repairs. Now I could do one of two things, right? I could choose target balance and just work toward the $500. When I get to 500, I'm done. I'll be able to keep track of my progress toward the goal amount. Or I could maybe set a monthly funding goal and just start budgeting a certain amount every month to the car, the auto maintenance category. I could budget $50 a month and keep an eye on the balance myself, and I'll get a reminder to budget for it each month. This is a great choice for any category that you absolutely want to make sure you budget for. These are both totally valid options. But I'm not sure how much I can afford each month. I can afford $50 this month, but I'm not sure I can do that every month. So I'm going to go ahead and go with target category balance. I can always change that down the line if I need to. All right. Now you'll notice there's no alert. Alerts are for goals associated with a time frame, and there's no time frame here. So I'm going to go ahead and budget $50. And I can see when I do that, the goal is updated. I'm 10% of the way there. And if I keep budgeting $50, YNAB even tells me, hey, you're going to reach your goal in 9 months. So goals help us stay focused on our priorities. I'm going to add a few more dollars to my true expenses, but I also have to budget for debt, right? I've got those 2 loan payments I've got to pay. And I also want to set some money aside for my quality of life goals and just for fun things. I want to budget for those too. And I'm starting to feel like I don't have enough to do everything I want. Well, without a budget, that might make me feel hopeless or frustrated. But with a budget, this feeling of scarcity is helping me to clearly see where the money needs to go. It's helping me stay focused on what's important. I know that we have a doctor appointment coming up, so I'm going to put $25 there toward the copay. We're going to need some winter clothes, so let's put $40 there. Oh, my sister has a birthday coming up, so I'm going to put $25 toward gifts. Now, I'm also new at this budgeting thing, and I'm worried I'm going to miss something here. So I'm going to go ahead and put $30 in the stuff I forgot to budget for category. I'm just going to tuck a few dollars there in case I need them later. Okay, so now I can go ahead and budget toward the student loan. And let's see, that's going to be $200, and the auto loan is $150. All right. Now that I've budgeted for the debt, I can move on to quality of life and just for fun. I need to keep budgeting because there's still $154.16 that needs to be budgeted. Remember, I need to get that number down to 0. Every single dollar needs a job. I'm going to start budgeting for vacation, budget for my gym membership. And let's see, well, I know we're going to be going out to eat this weekend, so we'll put $50 there. And then, that last $14.16, I'm just going to go ahead and put that toward music so I can pick up some songs over on iTunes. Now, you'll notice I didn't budget for every category in true expenses or quality of life before I started budgeting for the just for fun categories. It's not always black and white, and it's your budget. But the sequence for prioritizing is helpful for figuring out what's best. So now we've given every dollar a job and we've started working on our true expenses. We've set up some goals. Things are going great. So now comes the spending. To stay on top of your priorities, you need to track your spending. Now, most of the time when you're spending money, you aren't sitting at the computer, right? So YNAB has mobile apps for the iPhone, iPad, and Android phones so that you can enter spending and check your budget on the go. You could also set up direct import and use your bank and to pull in information from your bank. But you can also enter directly into YNAB, and that's what I'm going to be showing you today. Now, I need to pay the electric bill. Let's go back here for a second. And I check my budget, and I can see that I've got $65 budgeted there. I set money aside for this priority, so I'm ready. So the great thing about this is there's just no stress or worrying. I can pay this bill. I pay the bill and I'm done. And because I'm following my budget, I can pay it with confidence, and I know that I still have money for groceries and transportation and my other priorities. Now, if I didn't have a budget, I might worry that paying this bill would leave me short on cash, but that's not the case. Now, what about when things go wrong? What happens if I overspend? Well, we can see right now that I've got $25 budgeted for gifts. What if I spend $42.50? What if I'm shopping for my sister's birthday and I go out to buy the gift and I find something that I just have to get her and I spend a little bit more than I intended to? So what happens on the budget is the budget knows that I only had $25 set aside for gifts. So that's why it's waving at me here in red. The reality is I spent $17.50 that I budgeted on something else for this gift. So I need to reduce what I've budgeted in another category to make up for this. That's the reality. And if I don't do that, I can't trust my budget categories. And if I can't trust them, I can't stay on top of my priorities. Now, maybe the gift overspending was an isolated thing, but sometimes you may see overspending in the same category over and over again. Maybe I'm always overspending in gifts because I'm not budgeting enough there. And maybe I need to be a little more honest about that. Or maybe I need to pay a little more attention to the budget before spending. Over time, you're going to learn about your spending patterns and you'll be able to decide what's best for you. But right now, I need to figure out what is this gift more important than. Now, when it comes to rolling with the punches, we find that categories fall into one of three areas. On the left here, we've got the untouchables. My immediate obligations are untouchable, even some of my true expenses like that car insurance, right? As we move along this continuum, there are some categories I could change if I needed to. For example, in my example, I want to build up some money in my auto maintenance category, but if my car is running fine, I could take some from there in a pinch, right? Then I have my go-to categories. These are the ones I roll with a lot. And you notice it's not really so much three distinct groups, but rather a continuum, right? Different categories are going to slide along this in different places for everybody. So let's go back to YNAB and figure out what I should do. Now, I did tuck, as you may remember, $30 into the stuff I forgot to budget for a category. I'm so glad I did that because that's one of my go-to categories. So I'm going to go ahead and cover the overspending with the money that I've got budgeted in my stuff I forgot to budget for a category. And that's it. I've solved the problem. And this is rule 3. This is how you roll with the punches. Now, before we move on, let's review a little bit here. We've focused on our priorities in order of importance based on a framework outlined in the budget. The specifics are going to be different for everybody since your immediate obligations may be different than mine. And not everything's black and white. We're certainly going to all make different decisions. But this framework can be helpful as you work through your budget. We also followed 3 rules that helped us prioritize and stick to the process of budgeting. When you give every dollar a job, your priorities are clear. You're more thoughtful about your spending, so you spend less than you have. When you embrace your true expenses, you anticipate less frequent bills. So when they come, the money is already there for you. When you roll with the punches, you adjust in real time. Small mistakes don't even have the chance to become big mistakes. So you stay in the game. But here is this super awesome thing about the first 3 rules. When these 3 rules are firmly in place, your money is going to get older. And that is YNAB's 4th rule. We want you to age your money. We're not talking about old money like you just happen to inherit a fortune from a rich uncle. Instead, when you age your money, you're increasing the time between when you receive it and when you spend it. It gets its own rule because we have a target in mind. We want you to age your money to be at least 30 days old before you spend it. Because when you're a month ahead, life is just better. In fact, you may be doing so well with the first 3 rules that you earn money and say to yourself, I don't even need these dollars this month. So maybe some of those dollars can take care of next month's bills or even the month after. You just think about what's important to you and what your priorities are. And old money is really powerful because it breaks the paycheck-to-paycheck cycle. Living paycheck to paycheck means living on new money. That's the whole problem with that cycle. Your dollars barely have a chance to get settled into your bank account and they're right back out the door again. Now, 30-day-old money isn't going to happen immediately, but when you follow YNAB's first 3 rules, you will get there. So let's take a look at how. Let's say that I got another paycheck at the end of the month, and I'm going to go ahead and categorize those dollars as to be budgeted so I can put those dollars to work. And let's say that that check was for $950. Okay, so let's go back over here to the budget, and I've looked over my budget for this month, and I don't think I need any of these dollars. How awesome is that? Right? All these things are taken care of. So I'm going to go ahead and age those dollars by budgeting them in the next month now. I'm confident I don't need them because I've covered this month's immediate obligations. I'm saving for my true expenses. So I'm going to assign them to next month, and they won't get spent right now. They're just going to sit there and get older. So let's move over to next month. I do need to pay the mortgage on the 1st, so I'm going to go ahead and budget for that. I could budget for it this month, but I want to see that clean slate of budgeting for it next month. Oh, notice I've got an alert down here reminding me to budget for that car insurance bill. Let's go ahead and do that. This goal is target amount by date, so YNAB updates me on the progress. And we can see that I am now 33% of the way there to having enough for that car insurance bill. That's awesome. Now there's still $59.16 to be budgeted, and I'm going to go ahead and quickly add that to my grocery category and get a little bit of a jump start on that. And once again, every dollar has a job, but some of those dollars have been sent to this next month where they're going to sit and get older. Imagine a day where you're far enough ahead and have old enough money that you could budget for the entire next month before it even arrives. If you've got variable income, right, imagine how older money could really help even out that roller coaster a bit. And you'll notice if we look in the current month, we can see in the header that some money has been budgeted in the future. So this is one of the ways that you grow older money. With YNAB, the first 3 rules help you age your money by aligning your spending with your priorities. You tell your dollars what to do. You set money aside now for later expenses, allowing those dollars to age. You're flexible, and that keeps you in the game for the long haul. So you found our website and our classes. You're welcome back anytime. And if you can't find what you need on the website or in a class, we would love to hear from you at help@youneedabudget.com.